For billions of years, the sun has been untouchable. A perfect engine of plasma and light, ruling the solar system with absolute authority. Its wind, a storm of charged particles, has always flowed outward in every direction, shaping planets, carving magnetic fields, and defining the very limits of our world. Nothing has ever bent it. Nothing has ever dared until now. In early data from NASA's Parker Solar Probe and the European Solar Orbiter, scientists noticed something that defied logic, a distortion deep within the solar wind. The streams of plasma that should have flowed in a straight line were curving, bending as if guided by an invisible hand. The disturbance wasn't random. It had symmetry, rhythm, order, and at the center of it all was 3I Atlas, a small icy visitor from the depths of interstellar space. At first, astronomers thought it was just another harmless comet passing through like Oumuamua or Borisov before it. But this one was different. It wasn't reflecting sunlight like a normal object. It was modulating it, changing its brightness in precise intervals as if responding to a hidden frequency. When the James Webb Space Telescope pointed toward it, the data came back with something no one could explain. 3I Atlas wasn't just interacting with sunlight. It was talking to it. The solar wind bent around it. The plasma curved as if obeying its presence, and the sun itself seemed to react, pulsing in synchrony with this mysterious interstellar body. Some physicists called it an anomaly. Others whispered about something far more terrifying, a technology that can control a star. Because if 3I Atlas can truly bend the solar wind, then someone or something out there understands the language of the sun better than we ever will. And the question that's haunting every scientist right now is this: is 3I Atlas a natural phenomenon we can't yet explain, or the echo of an intelligence that's rewriting the laws of physics right before our eyes? It began with a ripple, not in light but in plasma. NASA's Parker Solar Probe, the most daring spacecraft ever sent toward the sun, was deep within the blazing boundary of the corona when its sensors picked up something no one expected. The data stream looked wrong. The solar wind, that constant outpouring of charged particles that's supposed to flow evenly and predictably from the sun, wasn't behaving as it should. Instead of radiating outward in perfect symmetry, the wind was distorted, bending as though being guided by an unseen force. At first, the team thought it was a calibration error, some electrical interference or background noise in the instruments. But when the European Space Agency's Solar Orbiter reported the exact same distortion from an entirely different position in space, the possibility of error vanished. Two separate spacecraft, separated by millions of kilometers, had recorded the same impossible pattern. Something was twisting the solar wind itself. As the data poured in, analysts at NASA and ESA stared at the models in disbelief. The plasma wasn't chaotic. It was organized, curving along a clean, symmetrical axis. That kind of precision doesn't occur naturally in solar dynamics. And as the team cross-referenced the location of the anomaly, the truth emerged. The disturbance was centered around a single moving object, 3I Atlas, an interstellar visitor just entering the inner solar system. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. For the first time, the sun, that eternal constant of physics, seemed to be responding to something external. The wind around it, a river of subatomic particles traveling at nearly 400 kilometers, was bending, forming graceful arcs as if shaped by a hidden gravitational or electromagnetic hand. Nothing in recorded history had ever done that. No comet, no asteroid, no planet. When the data was plotted, the results were even stranger. The curvature of the solar wind wasn't random or turbulent. It followed a pattern, a controlled deflection aligned precisely with the trajectory of 3I Atlas. Whatever this object was, it was not just passing through space. It was interacting with it. Solar physicists ran simulation after simulation, trying to replicate what Parker and the orbiter had seen, but nothing fit. The sun, in all its fury, was being subtly influenced by something smaller than a moon, a fragment from another star system, a visitor from the interstellar dark, was reshaping the flow of solar plasma, bending the breath of the sun itself. That moment marked the beginning of the mystery, the first undeniable evidence that something alien to our system was touching the heart of it. And while most scientists tried to explain it as a new kind of plasma interaction, a small group began to whisper another possibility: that 3I Atlas wasn't just bending the solar wind by accident. It was doing it on purpose. While the Parker Solar Probe and Solar Orbiter were still transmitting their baffling measurements of the sun's bent plasma streams, the James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most powerful eye in the cosmos, was brought into the investigation. Its infrared sensitivity could see details invisible to any solar probe. And so astronomers redirected its gaze toward the coordinates that both missions had flagged. The region of space surrounding 3I Atlas, what Webb recorded, would erase any lingering doubts that this was merely a coincidence of solar turbulence. Through its deep infrared spectrum, the telescope didn't just detect reflected sunlight, it observed modulated light that seemed to change intensity and wavelength in precise rhythmic intervals. This wasn't the random flicker of a comet's rotation or the variable brightness of vapor jets. It was patterned, like a signal embedded in the reflection itself. Webb's spectrometers picked up a faint oscillation that repeated every few minutes, too regular to be natural, too complex to be explained by any known mechanism. As scientists studied the data, they realized that 3I Atlas was interacting with sunlight in a way no object ever had. Normally, a comet scatters and reflects solar radiation according to its surface composition and orientation. But this one appeared to be absorbing and re-emitting light selectively, altering not just brightness, but also frequency, almost as if it were tuned to a particular wavelength. The object wasn't merely illuminated by the sun, it was responding to it. Webb's observation log showed another anomaly. The region around 3I Atlas displayed faint but measurable distortions in the surrounding plasma, a curvature of the solar wind that matched the earlier readings from Parker and the Solar Orbiter. But this time the pattern seemed to synchronize with the object's changing luminosity. When the light from 3I Atlas intensified, the curvature of the wind deepened. When it dimmed, the distortion weakened. Light and plasma were moving together in perfect rhythm, as though both were part of a coordinated system. To make sense of this, researchers compared the modulation patterns to known astrophysical phenomena, stellar pulsations, magnetic reconnections, plasma instabilities, but nothing fit. The changes were too orderly, too deliberate, and as the datasets aligned, one conclusion began to crystallize. 3I Atlas wasn't reflecting sunlight like a comet. It was manipulating it, actively shaping the energy it received from the sun. The revelation was terrifying. If the modulation was intentional, then 3I Atlas wasn't behaving like a passive rock at all. It was behaving like a machine, one that understood and responded to electromagnetic energy with precision. For decades, astronomers had dreamed of finding evidence of Dyson-like technologies, devices capable of harnessing stellar energy, but no one expected to see signs of such a mechanism within our own solar system. Inside the data, one frequency stood out, a repeating spectral line that pulsed every 4.3 seconds, faint but unmistakable, like a heartbeat echoing across the void. It didn't correspond to any natural oscillation or rotation period. It looked programmed. For the first time, the James Webb Telescope wasn't just observing the universe, it was being observed back. And as the teams at NASA and ESA reviewed the evidence, one haunting possibility began to emerge. 3I Atlas might not be defying the sun's rules, it might be communicating with it. The moment the Parker Solar Probe transmitted its next set of readings, every physicist involved in the mission knew something extraordinary had happened. The solar wind, that relentless stream of plasma hurled outward by the sun at nearly 400 kilometers, was bending. It wasn't being disrupted by turbulence, nor diffused by magnetic fields as it passed through interplanetary space. It was curving, wrapping smoothly around a single focal point. And at that focal point was 3I Atlas. On visual models, the wind lines that should have flowed straight outward like rays from a lantern were instead bowing inward, tracing elegant arcs that coiled around the object before continuing into the darkness. The pattern was unlike anything seen before. No natural body, no comet or asteroid has ever been capable of influencing plasma on such a scale. Solar radiation interacts weakly with small bodies. It pushes dust and ice, but it doesn't bend magnetized plasma streams. For that to happen, a force of immense control had to be present, one capable of manipulating charged particles with precision.